Lieutenant Alex Morgan lay bleeding in the toxic mud of Kepler 442b, watching her unit's transport disappear into the ash-filled sky. The retreat signal had come too late or perhaps too early, depending on how one viewed abandonment. The hegemony forces had deemed her position untenable, and her survival statistically improbable. They were probably right about the statistics. The planet's atmosphere burned her lungs with every breath, a cocktail of sulfur compounds and industrial waste that had been accumulating for 3 centuries of strip mining. The gravity was 30% higher than Earth standard, turning every movement into an act of defiance against physics itself. And somewhere in the maze of abandoned mining equipment and collapsed tunnels, an entire battalion of consortium shock troops was hunting for survivors. Alex pressed her hand against the plasma burn in her side, feeling the sealed combat suit struggle to contain both her blood and the planet's poisonous atmosphere. Her rifle had been destroyed in the bombardment, her communications array was slag, and her emergency beacon had been broadcasting static for 6 hours. By every reasonable metric, she was already dead. But Lieutenant Alex Morgan had been born on Mars, raised in the asteroid belts, and trained in the worst combat zones humanity had ever known. Reasonable metrics had never applied to her species. She began to move. The consortium troops were efficient, methodical, and utterly confident in their superiority. Their captain Zexthal commanded from a mobile command post, coordinating search patterns with the cold precision that had made his species the hegemony's primary enforcers. His troops moved in perfect formation, their powered armor gleaming even in the planet's perpetual twilight. They were hunting for a wounded animal, expecting to find a corpse. They found something else entirely. Alex had spent her first day learning their patrol routes, mapping their blind spots, understanding their rhythms. Humans had always been persistence hunters, capable of tracking prey across impossible distances by simply refusing to give up. But more than that, they were problem solvers who could turn any environment into an advantage. The abandoned mining equipment became her arsenal. Plasma cutters left behind by evacuated crews became improvised weapons. Industrial loading mechs, their AI cores still active, became allies with the right override codes. The planet's toxic atmosphere, filtered through jury-rigged mining equipment, became breathable air. On the second day, she began to hunt back. The first consortium trooper disappeared during routine perimeter sweep. His squad found his armor 3 hours later, perfectly intact but empty, positioned where it would be visible from the command post. No body, no blood, no sign of struggle, just empty armor standing at attention like a monument to uncertainty. The psychological effect was immediate and devastating. Captain Zexthal had studied human military doctrine extensively, but academic knowledge was different from experiencing it firsthand. He knew humans were capable of irregular warfare, but knowing and understanding were separate concepts entirely. His troops began checking shadows, jumping at sounds, second-guessing their sensor readings. By the 4th day, Alex had eliminated half his battalion without firing a single shot. Traps built from mining equipment, environmental hazards turned into weapons, psychological warfare that turned the hunters into the hunted. She moved through their lines like a ghost, always one step ahead, always thinking 3 moves beyond their responses. On the 5th day, Captain Zexthal made his fatal mistake. He decided to hunt her personally. Alex was waiting. The final confrontation took place in the ruins of the main processing facility, among the twisted wreckage of machines that had once stripped planets bare. Zexthal entered with confidence, his powered armor sensors mapping every corner, his weapon systems primed for combat. He found Alex sitting calmly on a pile of rubble, her improvised weapons laid aside, apparently surrendering. "You fought well for a dying species," he said, raising his weapon. "But this ends now." "You're right," Alex replied. "It does." The floor beneath him had been undermined with surgical precision. Centuries of mining equipment, reprogrammed and repositioned, activated simultaneously. Zexthal had walked into a trap built from an entire industrial complex, triggered by the weight of his own arrogance. When the rescue ships finally arrived, drawn by Alex's manually activated beacon, They found her standing at the landing zone. She was battered, scarred, and covered in alien mud, but very much alive. In her hands, she carried Captain Zexthal's command helmet, its advanced systems still recording the last moments of a battalion that had learned too late what it meant to leave a human for dead. The after-action report would become required reading at military academies across human space. Not because of the tactical brilliance, though that was noteworthy. Not because of the survival skills, though those were extraordinary. It became required reading because it perfectly demonstrated the most fundamental truth about humanity. They were never more dangerous than when their enemies thought they were finished. Lieutenant Alex Morgan had been left wounded in no man's land, written off as another casualty of war. She had returned with proof that humans didn't just survive impossible odds, they turned them into weapons.